Okay, it's going to be the 17th edition here. This one's going to be on gun control laws. Um, Everybody's got their opinion on this, and everybody thinks they're right. They think they're dead right. Um, they think everybody else is stupid for being wrong, and I think at this point, everybody's pretty much wrong. Now, I know people are going to say, you don't know what you're talking about, but you really have to look at things. Okay, the ones who are for gun control think that by limiting the amount of guns accessible to the public and accessible to everybody, whoever they may be, they think that's going to help control crime. It's going to help control these tragedies, especially like the school shootings and so on. On the flip side of it, you have those who take the Charlton Heston approach of, you can pry my gun from my cold dead hands, because they believe it is one of their constitutional rights. And they're going to fight for that left and right because they think they have the right to defend themselves. Okay, they both have valid points, but in a way they're both wrong. Our Constitution guarantees us the right to bear arms. You have to look at what that was meant to mean. It was meant that we have the right to bear arms as a militia. If we have to resist a foreign government, a foreign power, or our own government if it becomes tyrannical. It kind of follows into what like the Swiss have. Every male serves in the Swiss Army, or at least that's the way it used to be. And they tend to take home their service rifle, and it goes in their closet. So if Switzerland was ever attacked, everybody and their brother has a rifle that they're going to defend themselves with. It's kind of the same thing as how America was meant to be. But that's changed. Now we're defending ourselves against ourselves. We're not defending ourselves against a tyrannical government. We're defending ourselves against criminals that we're letting take over. I don't think this should be about gun control. I mean, I don't agree with the fact that people can get concealed weapons permit and pretty much just carry them around the streets, because that's one of the most dangerous things around. I think that the police officers should be the only ones who have that right. I think what it comes down to, it's our legal system. It's our justice system. We need to have harsher judgment for this. Criminals are a drain on our natural resources. They are a drain on our economy. And we are one of the most lenient nations ever. In a way, it's pussified us. That's about the best way to put it. It has pussified us. I think that we need to go to something a little bit more corporal. If a criminal is busted for a crime, fine. Put them in jail for a set amount of time. All this, sentencing, screw that. We should have really strict standards on exactly how long you could go to jail for various things. And frankly, I don't believe it to be 3 strikes. I don't believe it to be 2 strikes. 1 strike. You screw up, you go to jail. You screw up again, you're done. Now, if you're somebody who's come in here and tried to get naturalized or legalized, fine, we'll send your ass back to Mexico or wherever you came from. If you're a citizen and you're busted for shooting somebody, murdering somebody, armed robbery, assault and battery, whatever, you get busted again. If they're proven guilty, put them to death. I know it sounds kind of harsh, but get them out of our system. Get them off of our backs. They don't need to be a burden. What happens, if you sit there and you go to a doctor and you've got a cancerous tumor, what's the first thing they do? They see if they can remove it. They're going to cut it out of you so that it no longer burdens your system. It's when they can't cut it out that it overtaxes your system and eventually kills you. That's functionally what I think the penal system is doing to America right now. It is gradually wasting away our economy and our systems, and it's killing us. It's killing us slowly. Get rid of it. I mean, hell, when inmates can sue because their quality of life is too low and they can win, something is seriously wrong with our system. This is almost a point where we need to get to the old saying that there's going to be a second American Revolution. I just think that a number of people are latching out of that phrase, and they seem to think this means we're going to rise up and we're going to be armed when we do so, and we're going to throw the politicians out and shoot them all. That's garbage. The next American Revolution is going to be a political or a social movement, and it's going to overthrow the way things are as they sit. Now, the question comes down to, is it going to be the people, the common man, that's going to do so and try to establish something that is fair to all, actually move back maybe towards a true democracy or even a republic? Or is it going to be where the corporations do so, where they pretty much buy the revolution, in which case they become the new the tyrants, and their tyrannical rule is going to be based off of money, because we are a capitalist society now. It shows. I mean, look at the punishment of our children. When I was growing up, spankings were a norm. You get out of hand, you get spanked, and you learned your lesson. You didn't want to be spanked. You did not want any kind of corporal punishment done upon you. Therefore, you avoided doing the bad things, or you avoided getting caught. Now, you spank your kid, you pretty much lose your custody because of child abuse, or you can go to jail because you're a child abuser. There's a difference between spankings and beatings. And if you don't know the difference, you shouldn't have had kids to begin with. Of course, that can't be controlled. Two dumb people decide to screw, they're going to have a kid, and that kid's probably going to be dumber than them. It really disgusts me. I mean, it does. Because now you have to actually punish your kids by, taking away their electronics? Keeping them off the internet, keeping them away from stuff. It all comes back to money. You're depriving them of stuff that costs money to do. Those aren't privileges. Those are purchases. As a kid, I spent the majority of my summers outside or with my friends, dealing, either in physical or cerebral activities. I spent most of my weekends the same way. After school, if my homework and chores were done, that's what I went out and did. I found my friends and we spent time together. Now, I'm going to jump on Twitter. I'm going to jump on Facebook. I'm going to Skype. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to play Flappy Bird, or whatever it may be. The kids don't do it. Even my kid. My kid in her lifetime probably hasn't spent as much time outside playing as I used to do in one summer. I don't know how to deal with this at this point. Do I go against society, spank my kid, and risk losing her? No. We have a problem in that regard. And back to the original subject, it extends to the whole penal system. If somebody commits a major felony, fine, put them in for rehab. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they learned their lesson. Don't make the sentences as long as they've been, because then you end up with the lifers. No. You give them that one chance. If they get out and they do it again, fine. Put them on a new form of death row, and have it be a quick process, not something that lasts for years and years and years. Oh, you screwed up. Within the next 6 months, you're going to be put into the gas chamber, the electric chair, whatever it may be. Hell, go back to hanging people or firing squads. I guarantee you, once that gets instituted, the criminals will learn their lessons. And frankly, you'll see a drop in the amount of crime out there, and you'll also see our economy start to move up, get more solid. Why? Because there's going to be more money to spend on infrastructure, education, building up our cities so we don't end up with another Detroit. A freaking major metropolitan area that's filed for bankruptcy. Really? Have we gotten that bad? I mean, Greece went and filed as a country, pretty much. They were about to go under. Detroit is a symptom. We're not as far behind Greece as everybody seems to think. Oh, we've got 50 states to support the others. Okay, obviously if Detroit can't handle it, that means Michigan's in trouble. Okay, we can handle one state, but what happens when 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 others get in that same problem? I mean, Hell, Puerto Rico is not even a state, but we support it, and it's known as one of the most poorest places in the world. Not to mention everything we do where we support every frigging crisis out there. If there's going to be troops, there's going to be Americans there. If there's a disaster, we're sending aid. Why are we sending aid when we're not sending it to ourselves? I mean, anybody who's up late at night and puts on the television sees one of two things pop up. No, one I don't mind. I hate the commercials, but I don't mind the fact that they do it, which is the whole abused animal thing, where, help them find a home, and you've got Sarah McLachlan, pretty much trying to basically rip your heart out and make you actually open your wallet. That's fine. Then you got the other guy who's all about adopt the foreign children in the core countries. Okay, it's children. You would say that's a worthy cause. What about the children in our country that are starving, that can't afford education, that are being driven into these gangs and eventually end up in the penal system? What about them? Why haven't we actually done something for them? I mean, everybody sits there and tries to complain that Obama's only in office because he's black. Okay. I don't see him actually out there putting out programs that are slanted towards the African American people that's going to make life easier for them or make it less likely they're going to end up in prisons or jail or whatever. I mean, that right there is a stereotype unto itself. Everybody acts like, oh, you're black, you must be a criminal in the making. I've got a lot of black friends. I've seen a lot of white people that are a lot worse than they are. So, it being, a people are not predisposed towards crime. A culture is predisposed towards believing they are, because that right there is still it still goes back to the slave owner's mentality, that the African American is somehow inferior to the rest of us, those of European descent, and therefore they believe, oh, they're going to drive there. And you know what? It's not extended just to the whites. The blacks have it too, because they wouldn't actually put themselves in that situation, and they wouldn't actually hit us up with reverse racism. Reverse racism is one of the nastiest things I've seen, where, oh, you hate me because I'm white. I've never done anything to you. Oh, you're going to fall back on the slave trade, which ended in the 1800s, over 100 years ago? Really? Try living in the present, because if you actually turned around and looked at the present rather than the past, you might realize the situation we're in. So, like I said, this was all about gun control, and it leads into, to my opinion, the penal system. Gun control is just that. It has no effect. You could put the gun control on there, and all that's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of people who are going to try to rebel against you. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to own weapons illegally, and the criminals are just going to keep doing what they do. You can sit there and make it a free type deal, and all you're going to end up doing is you're going to have people who are going to pull the trigger at a drop of a hat. Okay, so why don't we look at the biggest problem, which is the citizenry and the criminals themselves. They say you can judge a civilization by its criminals. Well, ours are pretty freaking bad, which means our civilization must suck. So let's put some kind of harsher controls in there, so when somebody goes to judge our criminals, all we got are first timers, because all the multi-timers are dead. You may not like my harshness in this, you may not agree with it, but something's got to change, and I think this is the first step. Comment if you want. I welcome all comments, criticisms, and rebuttals.